I am a robin, and the name that humans have given to me carries different meanings depending on where in the world you find yourself. If you are in Europe, I am the European robin, known to science as Erythacus rubecula, a small bird of the flycatcher family Muscicapidae, distinguished by my bright orange red breast and face, my round body, and my large dark eyes. If you are in North America, I am the American robin Turdus migratorius, a thrush much larger than my European namesake, with a brick-red breast, gray-brown back, and a yellow bill. The two of us share a name because early European settlers in the Americas saw the reddish breast of the American species and were reminded of the familiar robin back home, but we are not closely related. We belong to different families, we occupy different ecological niches, and our lives unfold according to different rhythms. For the purposes of this narrative, I will speak primarily as the European robin, the bird that has lived alongside humans in Europe, parts of Asia, and North Africa for thousands of years. The bird that appears in countless stories, songs, and winter greeting cards. The bird whose scientific name derives from the Greek word for red. However, I will also acknowledge the American robin where our lives diverge, or where comparison illuminates the distinct paths evolution has carved for us. I am small. An adult European robin measures roughly 12.5 to 14 centimeters from the tip of my bill to the end of my tail. My wingspan stretches about 20 to 22 centimeters, and I weigh between 16 and 22 grams, though this fluctuates with the seasons, with the availability of food, and with the demands of reproduction. Males and females are similar in size, and we are nearly identical in plumage, which is unusual among songbirds. Both sexes display the orange-red face and breast that defines us, bordered below by a band of blue-gray. My upperparts, including my back, wings, and the top of my head, are warm brown, sometimes described as olive brown. My belly and undertail are white or pale buff. My legs are slender and brown, my feet equipped with long toes and sharp claws suited to hopping on the ground and gripping branches. My bill is fine and pointed, dark brown or black, adapted for picking up insects and other small invertebrates. My eyes are large and round, giving me an alert, somewhat inquisitive expression, and they are positioned on the sides of my head to provide a wide field of view, essential for detecting both prey and predators. The American robin is substantially larger. An adult of that species measures about 23 to 28 centimeters in length, with a wingspan of 31 to 41 centimeters, and weighs between 77 and 85 grams. The American robin's bill is yellow, its breast a deeper, more rust-colored red, and its head is darker, almost black in some lights. The two species are adapted to different climates, different food sources, and different social structures, but both have thrived in human-altered landscapes, and both have become symbols of seasonal change in their respective regions. My body is built for agility and endurance in a world of dense vegetation, forest edges, gardens, and hedgerows. My wings are rounded, which sacrifices some speed but grants me maneuverability in cluttered environments. I can dart between branches, hover briefly to snatch an insect from a leaf, and twist in midair to evade a pursuing sparrowhawk. My flight is undulating, a series of rapid wing beats followed by brief glides, and I rarely fly long distances in a single burst. Instead, I move through my territory in short hops and flights, covering ground efficiently while remaining alert to danger and opportunity. My legs and feet are strong relative to my size, and I spend much of my time on the ground, hopping across leaf litter, turning over debris with flicks of my bill, and scanning for the movement of prey. My tail is slightly notched, and I often flick it upward or sideways, a behavior that may help flush insects or signal my presence to rivals. My plumage serves multiple functions. The orange-red breast and face are signals, used in both territorial defense and mate attraction. Research has shown that the intensity and size of the red patch correlate with individual quality, including age, health, and dominant status. In disputes over territory, two robins will face each other, puff out their red breasts, and engage in a ritualized display that can escalate to physical combat if neither retreats. The red is a badge, a declaration of ownership and fitness. The brown and gray tones of my upperparts provide camouflage against the earth, bark, and leaf litter where I forage. When I am still, I blend into the dappled light and shadow of the forest floor, making it harder for predators to spot me. My white belly reduces my silhouette when seen from below, a form of countershading that is common among birds. My senses are finely tuned to the demands of survival in a world full of hidden threats and fleeting opportunities. My vision is acute, particularly for detecting movement. I can see a wide spectrum of colors, including wavelengths in the ultraviolet range that are invisible to humans. This ability may help me assess the condition of potential mates, locate certain fruits, or detect patterns on insects that reflect UV light. My eyes are adapted for both bright daylight and the dim conditions of dawn and dusk, when I am most active. I have a high density of photoreceptor cells in my retina, which enhances my ability to resolve fine details and track fast-moving prey. When I hunt for earthworms, I tilt my head to bring one eye to bear on the ground, scanning for the subtle disturbance of soil or the faint sheen of moisture that betrays a worm near the surface. Researchers have debated whether I locate worms primarily by sight or by sound, and the evidence suggests I rely on both, using visual cues to detect movement and auditory cues to detect the faint sounds of a worm moving through the soil. My hearing is well developed. I can detect frequencies that range from low rumbles to high-pitched insect calls, and I use sound to locate prey, monitor the environment, and communicate with other robins. My songs and calls are complex and varied, and I will describe them in detail later, but it is worth noting here that my ability to produce and perceive a wide range of sounds is central to my life. I also have a sense of touch, concentrated in specialized receptors in my bill and feet, which helps me manipulate food and assess the texture of the substrate where I forage. My sense of smell is less developed than in some other bird species, but it is not absent. Evidence suggests that some birds use olfactory cues to locate food or assess environmental conditions, though this remains an area of active research for many songbirds, including robins. I also possess an extraordinary ability that is still not fully understood by scientists. I can sense the Earth's magnetic field. This magnetic sense, or magnetoreception, is thought to involve specialized proteins in my eyes called cryptochromes, which may allow me to see magnetic field lines as patterns of light and shadow overlaid on my visual field. This ability is crucial during migration, a behavior that is more pronounced in some robin populations than others. European robins in northern and eastern parts of the range are migratory, traveling south and west in autumn to escape harsh winters, then returning north and east in spring to breed. Robins in milder regions, such as the British Isles, are largely sedentary, though some individuals may make short movements in response to food availability or weather. The American robin is also migratory, with northern populations moving south in large flocks during autumn and returning in spring, often arriving early enough to be seen as harbingers of the season. I live in a wide range of habitats, but I am most commonly associated with woodland edges, gardens, parks, hedgerows, and areas where trees and open ground meet. I require access to both cover, where I can nest and shelter from predators, and open or semi-open ground where I can forage for invertebrates. In natural settings, I favor deciduous and mixed forests with a well-developed understory, where the leaf litter is rich in insects and other prey. I also thrive in human-modified landscapes, and I have adapted remarkably well to gardens, churchyards, cemeteries, and suburban areas. In these places, I benefit from human activities such as digging, composting, and watering, which make soil invertebrates more accessible. I am often seen following gardeners as they turn the soil, hopping close to snatch up earthworms and beetle larvae exposed by the spade. My geographic range is broad. The European robin is found across most of Europe, from the British Isles and Scandinavia in the north to the Mediterranean and North Africa in the south, and east into western Siberia and parts of the Middle East. Different populations show variation in plumage, size, and behavior, and some taxonomists recognize several subspecies, though the boundaries between them are not always clear. The American robin ranges from Alaska and northern Canada south through the United States to Central America, with seasonal movements that shift the population distribution dramatically between summer and winter. Both species have expanded their ranges in response to human land use, colonizing new areas as forests are fragmented and gardens are established. My daily routine is shaped by the rhythms of light and temperature, the availability of food, and the demands of territory and reproduction. I am diurnal, active primarily during the day, though I also sing and forage during the early morning and late evening twilight. In winter, when days are short, I may begin foraging before dawn and continue until after sunset, maximizing the time available to find food. In summer, when days are long and food is abundant, I have more flexibility in my schedule, and I spend time singing, defending territory, and caring for young. I am an early riser. Before the sun has fully cleared the horizon, I am already awake, perched in a sheltered spot where I have spent the night. I do not sleep in the open. Instead, I seek out dense foliage, a tangle of ivy, or a cavity in a wall or tree where I am hidden from nocturnal predators such as owls and cats. I sleep with my head tucked under my wing, my body fluffed to conserve heat, and I remain alert to sounds that might signal danger. As the sky begins to lighten, I emerge, shake my feathers to restore their insulating properties, and begin to sing. Singing serves multiple purposes. In the breeding season, it advertises my presence to potential mates and warns rival males to stay away. Outside the breeding season, both males and females sing to defend winter feeding territories, a behavior that is unusual among songbirds and reflects the intense competition for resources during the cold months. My song is a series of warbling phrases, high-pitched and melodious, with a quality that humans often describe as melancholic or wistful. Each phrase is distinct, and I do not repeat them in a fixed pattern. Instead, I improvise, varying the structure and rhythm in ways that may convey information about my identity, my condition, or my intentions. I sing from prominent perches, often at the top of a bush or tree, where my voice carries and where I can be seen by rivals and potential mates. I also sing from lower, more hidden perches when I am establishing boundaries or responding to an intruder. After singing, I descend to the ground to forage. Foraging is the activity that occupies the greatest portion of my day, especially in winter when food is scarce and energy demands are high. I hop across the ground, pausing frequently to look and listen. My head tilts to one side and I scan the soil for signs of movement. When I detect a worm, I hop closer, position myself carefully, and lunge forward, seizing the worm with my bill and pulling it from the soil. Earthworms are a staple of my diet, particularly in spring and summer when they are abundant and accessible near the surface. I also eat a wide variety of other invertebrates: beetles, caterpillars, spiders, flies, ants, and woodlice. In autumn and winter, I supplement my diet with berries and fruits, including those of holly, ivy, hawthorn, and rowan. The shift to a more fruit-based diet in winter is partly a response to the reduced availability of invertebrates, which become less active and retreat deeper into the soil as temperatures drop. Foraging is not a passive activity. I am constantly scanning for threats, and I must balance the need to find food with the need to stay safe. Sparrowhawks are my most dangerous avian predators. These agile raptors specialize in hunting small birds, and they often ambush prey by flying fast and low through cover, using hedges and trees to conceal their approach until the last moment. When I detect a sparrowhawk, or when I hear the alarm calls of other birds, I freeze or dive into dense cover. My survival depends on my ability to react instantly, and I am wired to err on the side of caution. A false alarm costs me a few seconds of foraging time, but a failure to react to a real threat costs me my life. Cats, both domestic and feral, are also significant predators, particularly in gardens and urban areas. Cats hunt by stealth, stalking their prey and then pouncing, and they are responsible for the deaths of millions of small birds each year. I am vulnerable when I am on the ground or when I am focused on feeding and less attentive to my surroundings. Other predators include weasels, rats, foxes, and in some areas, snakes. Nestlings and eggs are vulnerable to a wider range of predators, including jays, magpies, crows, squirrels, and even other robins, though adult robins are fiercely defensive of their nests and will mob and attack intruders. Human activity poses both risks and opportunities. Habitat destruction, particularly the loss of hedgerows and woodlands, reduces the availability of nesting sites and foraging habitat. Pesticides and other chemicals can reduce invertebrate populations, depriving me of food, and can also poison me directly if I consume contaminated prey. Collisions with windows and vehicles kill many robins each year. On the other hand, gardens and parks provide habitat, and many humans actively support robins by providing food, water, and nesting boxes. In the United Kingdom, the robin is one of the most beloved garden birds, and it is often regarded as a symbol of Christmas and winter, appearing on cards and decorations. This cultural connection has likely contributed to conservation efforts and public awareness, though it does not eliminate the threats I face. I am territorial, and this aspect of my behavior is central to understanding my life. Territory is not just a place, it is a resource, a defended area that provides food, shelter, and during the breeding season, nesting sites. The size of my territory varies depending on the quality of the habitat and the time of year. In rich habitats with abundant food, territories may be as small as a fraction of a hectare. In poorer habitats, they may be several hectares. In winter, both males and females hold individual territories, which they defend vigorously against intruders of the same sex. This is unusual among temperate songbirds, most of which form flocks in winter, and only establish territories during the breeding season. The reason for this behavior lies in the nature of my food supply. Invertebrates are a limited and defensible resource, and by excluding competitors, I can ensure a more reliable food supply for myself. Territorial disputes are ritualized but can be intense. When I encounter an intruder, I begin with a display. I perch in a prominent position, puff out my red breast, and sing loudly. The intruder may respond in kind, and we engage in a singing duel, each trying to outperform the other. If neither retreats, the dispute escalates. We approach each other, hopping closer, our bodies tense, our feathers raised. We may circle, each trying to gain a superior position, and we may lunge and peck, striking with our bills and feet. Fights can result in injury, and occasionally they are fatal, though most disputes are resolved before it comes to that. The red breast plays a crucial role in these interactions. Experiments have shown that robins react more aggressively to models with red breasts than to models without, and a robin will even attack a bundle of red feathers placed in its territory. The red is a signal of aggression and dominance, and the intensity of the color may convey information about the holder's fighting ability. During the breeding season, the dynamics shift. Males establish territories in late winter or early spring, and they sing to attract females. Females visit multiple territories, assessing the quality of the site and the male. Once a female chooses a territory, she forms a pair bond with the male, and the two cooperate to raise young. The male continues to defend the territory, but his aggression is now directed primarily at rival males rather than at the female. Pair bonds in robins are generally monogamous for the duration of the breeding season, though extra pair copulations have been documented, and some individuals may repair if a mate dies or if the pair fails to raise young successfully. Courtship involves a combination of singing, displays, and behaviors that may appear ritualistic to a human observer. The male sings frequently, both to attract the female and to warn rivals. He may perform a courtship feeding display, offering food to the female, which she accepts if she is receptive. This behavior has multiple functions. It demonstrates the male's ability to find food. It provides the female with extra nutrition during the energetically demanding period of egg production, and it strengthens the pair bond. The female may also sing, though less frequently than the male, and her songs may serve to communicate her reproductive status or to reinforce the bond. Nesting begins once the pair bond is established. The female selects the nest site, often in a sheltered location such as a hedge, a tree cavity, a crevice in a wall, or even an artificial structure such as a nesting box, a shelf in a shed, or a discarded kettle in a garden. Robins are remarkably adaptable in their choice of nest sites, and there are countless anecdotes of robins nesting in unusual places, including inside buildings, in mailboxes, and in machinery. The nest is built primarily by the female, though the male may accompany her and occasionally bring material. The nest is a cup-shaped structure made of moss, grass, leaves, and roots, lined with hair, feathers, and fine grass. The construction takes several days, and the female works with care, shaping the interior by pressing her body against the materials. Once the nest is complete, the female begins to lay eggs. A typical clutch consists of 4 to 6 eggs, though clutches of 3 or 7 are not uncommon. The eggs are white or pale blue, speckled with reddish-brown markings, and they measure about 20 millimeters in length. The female lays 1 egg per day, usually in the early morning, and she does not begin incubation until the clutch is complete or nearly complete. This synchronizes the hatching of the chicks, ensuring that all receive care at roughly the same stage of development. Incubation lasts about 13 to 14 days and is performed exclusively by the female. She sits on the eggs, maintaining a temperature of around 37 degrees Celsius, and she leaves the nest only briefly to forage. During her absences, the male may bring her food, continuing the courtship feeding behavior observed earlier. Hatching is a vulnerable time. The chicks break free from the eggs using a specialized structure called an egg tooth, a small projection on the tip of the bill that falls off shortly after hatching. The chicks are altricial, meaning they are born helpless, blind, naked, and entirely dependent on their parents. Their skin is pink and translucent, and they are so small and fragile that they seem barely viable, yet within days they begin to grow rapidly. Both parents feed the chicks, bringing them a constant supply of invertebrates. The parents make hundreds of feeding trips each day, and the chicks' growth rate is astonishing. By the end of the first week, their eyes have opened and their bodies are covered in a sparse down. By the end of the second week, Feathers begin to emerge, and the chicks become more active, begging loudly whenever the parents approach. The nestling period lasts about 12 to 15 days, though this can vary depending on food availability and weather conditions. As the chicks grow, their demands increase, and the parents must work harder to keep up. The male and female divide the labor, though the female often does more of the brooding in the early days, keeping the chicks warm while the male forages. As the chicks develop their own insulation, the female spends more time foraging as well. The parents remove fecal sacs, small packages of waste produced by the chicks, and carry them away from the nest to reduce the risk of attracting predators or parasites. Fledging is a critical transition. When the chicks are ready to leave the nest, they are still not fully capable of flight. They hop to the edge of the nest, flap their wings, and launch themselves into the air, often landing clumsily on the ground or in low vegetation. For the next week or two, they remain dependent on their parents, who continue to feed them while they learn to forage and to fly with greater skill. This period is dangerous. The fledglings are conspicuous, noisy, and vulnerable to predators, and many do not survive. Those that do survive gradually gain independence, dispersing from their parents' territory to find their own. Robins are capable of raising multiple broods in a single breeding season. If the first brood is successful, the female may begin building a new nest and laying a second clutch, while the male continues to care for the fledglings from the first brood. In some cases, robins raise 3 or even 4 broods in a year, though the success of later broods is often lower due to declining food availability and the physical toll on the parents. The breeding season typically runs from March to July in Europe, though there is variation depending on latitude and local conditions. In milder climates, breeding may begin earlier and extend later into the year. Not all breeding attempts are successful. Nests are vulnerable to predation, and eggs or chicks may be lost to jays, magpies, crows, squirrels, cats, or snakes. Weather can also be a factor. Heavy rain, cold snaps, or extreme heat can kill eggs or chicks and can reduce the availability of invertebrates, making it harder for parents to feed their young. Parasites such as fleas and mites can infest nests, weakening chicks and sometimes causing mortality. Despite these challenges, robins are generally successful breeders, and their high reproductive rate compensates for the high mortality rate of chicks and fledglings. The life cycle of a robin is shaped by high mortality and the constant struggle to survive and reproduce. Most robins do not live long. The average lifespan is just over a year, though this figure is heavily influenced by the high mortality of juveniles in their first year. If a robin survives to adulthood, it may live for 2 to 3 years, and some individuals live much longer. The oldest known European robin, identified through banding, lived for more than 11 years, though such longevity is exceptional. The American robin has a similar lifespan, with most individuals living 1 to 2 years, and the oldest recorded individual reaching 14 years. Mortality is highest in the first few months of life. Many chicks die in the nest, and many fledglings are killed by predators or succumb to starvation before they become independent. Winter is another critical period. Food is scarce, temperatures are low, and robins must consume large amounts of food to maintain their body temperature. A robin can lose up to 10% of its body weight overnight, and it must replenish these reserves each day. A few days of harsh weather, when invertebrates are unavailable and berries are depleted, can be fatal. Competition for food is intense, and individuals that hold high-quality territories have a significant survival advantage over those that do not. Migration adds another layer of risk for populations that undertake it. Robins that migrate must navigate across unfamiliar landscapes, cross barriers such as mountains and seas, and avoid predators and adverse weather. They rely on a combination of innate and learned behaviors, using the Earth's magnetic field, the position of the sun and stars, and visual landmarks to orient themselves. Young robins undertaking their first migration have no prior experience and must rely on instinct. Yet many successfully reach their wintering grounds and return to breed the following spring. The mechanisms underlying this remarkable feat are still being studied, and research has revealed that robins use a complex suite of cues, integrating information from multiple sensory systems to navigate with precision. My social organization is unusual. Outside the breeding season, I am largely solitary and territorial, defending my feeding territory against other robins. This contrasts with many other songbirds, which form flocks in winter and only become territorial during the breeding season. The reason for my behavior lies in the nature of my food supply and the benefits of defending it. However, I am not entirely asocial. I respond to the presence of other birds, and I participate in mixed species foraging flocks, particularly in woodland habitats where species such as tits, finches, and warblers move through the trees in loose groups. I benefit from these associations because the other birds help to detect predators, and their foraging activity may flush insects that I can capture. I also interact with other robins in ways that are not purely aggressive. During migration and dispersal, young robins may encounter each other in neutral areas, and they may tolerate each other's presence temporarily. There is also evidence that robins can recognize individual neighbors and that they respond less aggressively to familiar neighbors than to unfamiliar intruders, a phenomenon known as the deer enemy effect. This makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. Established neighbors have already demonstrated their ability to hold a territory, and repeated fights with them are costly and unlikely to result in displacement. Unfamiliar intruders, on the other hand, represent a greater threat and warrant a stronger response. Communication is central to my life, and I use a variety of signals to convey information. My songs, as I have described, are complex and melodious, and they serve multiple functions depending on the context. In addition to songs, I produce a range of calls, each with a specific meaning. The most common call is a sharp tick or ticking sound, often repeated rapidly, which serves as a general contact call or alarm call. When I detect a predator, I produce a high-pitched, thin C call, which alerts other birds to the danger without revealing my location. I also produce a variety of other calls, including soft notes used between mates or between parents and chicks, and aggressive calls used during territorial disputes. Body language is also important. I use postures and movements to communicate intent and status. When I am aggressive, I puff out my red breast, raise my head, and point my bill at the rival. When I am submissive or attempting to appease, I sleek my feathers, lower my head, and avoid direct eye contact. During courtship, I may adopt specific postures, such as drooping my wings or flicking my tail, which signal my readiness to mate or my receptiveness to the male's advances. These visual signals are often combined with vocalizations to create complex, multimodal displays. Scent may also play a role in communication, though this is less well understood. Some birds produce preen oil from a gland near the base of the tail, and they spread this oil over their feathers during preening. The composition of preen oil varies among individuals and may carry information about identity, sex, or reproductive status. There is also evidence that some birds can detect chemical cues in the environment, such as the scent of predators or the odor of food, though the extent to which robins rely on olfaction is still being investigated. My ecological role extends beyond my interactions with other robins. I am part of a complex web of relationships that includes my prey, my predators, my competitors, and the plants and other organisms that share my habitat. As a predator of invertebrates, I help to regulate populations of insects and other small animals, and I may influence the structure of the invertebrate community in my territory. As a consumer of fruits and berries, I disperse seeds, contributing to the regeneration of plants and the spread of vegetation. The seeds pass through my digestive system and are deposited in my droppings, often at some distance from the parent plant, and this service is valuable for plants that rely on birds for dispersal. I am also a host to a variety of parasites and pathogens. Fleas, mites, and lice live on my body or in my nest, feeding on my blood or skin. These parasites can weaken me, reduce my reproductive success, and in some cases transmit diseases. Internal parasites such as nematodes and protozoans live in my gut or other organs, and they can cause illness or death if the infestation is severe. I am also susceptible to bacterial, viral, and fungal infections, some of which can spread rapidly through populations, particularly in areas where robins congregate or where conditions are crowded and stressful. My relationship with humans is long and complex. In European culture, the robin has been celebrated in folklore, literature, and art for centuries. The bird's red breast has been explained in various myths, including the Christian legend that the robin acquired its red plumage by singing to Jesus on the cross and being splashed with his blood, or by fanning the flames in hell to comfort souls in torment. In other traditions, the robin is associated with the spirits of the dead, and it is considered unlucky to harm one. The robin's association with winter and Christmas has made it a popular motif in seasonal decorations, and it is often depicted perched on snow-covered branches or delivering messages of goodwill. In the United Kingdom, the robin was voted the national bird in an unofficial poll, reflecting its popularity and cultural significance. This affection has practical consequences. Many people provide food and nesting sites for robins, and there is widespread public support for conservation measures that benefit the species. However, this relationship is not entirely benign. The provision of food can alter natural behaviors, leading to higher densities of birds in certain areas and potentially increasing the transmission of diseases. Garden cats, as I have mentioned, kill many robins, and the expansion of human settlements into natural habitats continues to pose challenges. The conservation status of the European robin is currently considered to be of least concern by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. The species has a large range, a large population, and it is not experiencing declines that would warrant a higher threat category. However, this does not mean that robins are without challenges. Habitat loss, particularly the removal of hedgerows and the intensification of agriculture, reduces the availability of suitable habitat. Pesticides reduce invertebrate populations, and climate change may alter the timing of food availability and the suitability of habitats. Monitoring programs track robin populations, and research continues to investigate the factors that influence their survival and reproduction. The American robin is also considered to be of least concern, and it is one of the most abundant and widespread birds in North America. Like the European robin, it has adapted well to human-modified landscapes, and it is a common sight in gardens, parks, and suburban areas. However, American robins face similar threats, including habitat loss, pesticide exposure, and collisions with structures. They are also vulnerable to disease outbreaks, particularly from West Nile virus, which has caused significant mortality in some populations. There are misconceptions about robins that are worth addressing. One common belief is that robins are friendly and trusting birds that seek out human company. While it is true that robins often approach humans, particularly gardeners, this behavior is not driven by affection or trust. Instead, robins have learned that human activities, such as digging, disturb the soil and make invertebrates more accessible. They follow gardeners for the same reason they follow wild boar or other animals that root in the ground. It is an efficient foraging strategy. Another misconception is that robins are exclusively insectivorous. While invertebrates make up the majority of my diet during the breeding season, I also consume significant amounts of fruit and berries, particularly in autumn and winter. And this flexibility in diet is one reason I've been able to adapt to a wide range of habitats. A day in my life varies depending on the season, but certain patterns hold throughout the year. In spring, during the height of the breeding season, I wake before dawn and begin to sing. My song carries through the cool morning air, announcing my presence and reinforcing my claim to the territory. After singing for perhaps 20 or 30 minutes, I descend to the ground to forage. I hop across the lawn, pausing to tilt my head and scan for worms. I detect a faint disturbance in the soil, hop closer and lunge, seizing a worm and pulling it free. I swallow it quickly and continue foraging, moving systematically across the territory. I find a beetle larva under a piece of bark, a spider in the leaf litter, and several small flies on a patch of damp soil. My mate is incubating eggs, and I carry food to her at intervals throughout the morning. She leaves the nest briefly to take the food, and I may sit on the eggs for a few minutes while she forages and defecates. The sun is higher now, and the air is warming. I sing again from a high perch, keeping an eye on the boundaries of my territory. A rival male appears at the edge, and I respond immediately, flying to a prominent perch and singing loudly. The rival sings back, and we engage in a vocal duel. He moves closer, and I escalate, puffing out my red breast and hopping toward him. He retreats, and I follow, chasing him to the boundary and beyond, then returning to my own territory, satisfied that the intrusion has been repelled. In the afternoon, I continue to forage and sing, dividing my time between feeding myself and bringing food to my mate. As the sun begins to set, I sing again, a final proclamation of territory before nightfall. I find a sheltered spot in a dense thicket, fluff my feathers, and settle in for the night. The sounds of the day fade, replaced by the calls of owls and the rustle of nocturnal creatures. I sleep lightly, alert to danger, and I will wake again before dawn to begin the cycle anew. In winter, my day is different. I wake in the dim light of a short December morning, and I begin to forage immediately. There is no singing at dawn, or at least not the prolonged, melodious song of spring. Instead, I produce short bursts of song and calls, primarily to defend my territory and to maintain contact with neighbors. The ground is hard, and invertebrates are scarce. I search the leaf litter, turning over debris with my bill, and I visit berry-laden bushes, stripping fruit from the branches. I eat holly berries, ivy berries, and the wrinkled remains of hawthorn fruits that have persisted through the autumn. The berries are not as nutritious as invertebrates, but they provide energy, and I supplement them with whatever insects I can find. The winter day is short, and I must make the most of the limited foraging time. I am constantly on the move, covering my territory methodically, and I am vigilant for rivals. A female robin enters my territory, and I respond with aggression, chasing her away. In winter, both sexes hold territories, and I do not tolerate intruders, male or female. The competition for food is intense, and every berry, every insect is valuable. As the light fades, I forage with increasing urgency, knowing that I must build up my reserves for the long, cold night ahead. I find a final cluster of berries, eat them quickly, and retreat to my roosting spot. I fluff my feathers to trap air and create insulation, tuck my head under my wing, and enter a state of torpor, lowering my metabolic rate to conserve energy. I will wake in the morning, lighter than I was the night before, and I will begin the struggle again. The family perspective of a robin is shaped by the demands of raising young in a world where resources are limited and dangers are many. As a male during the breeding season, my role is to defend the territory, to court and feed my mate, and to help raise the chicks. I invest heavily in reproduction, and my success is measured by the number of offspring that survive to independence and beyond. My mate invests even more heavily, producing eggs that represent a significant expenditure of energy and nutrients, incubating them and brooding the chicks in their early days. Together, we form a partnership that is temporary but intense, focused on the shared goal of raising young. The chicks are demanding. From the moment they hatch, they require constant feeding, and they grow at a rate that astonishes even seasoned observers. Their begging calls are loud and insistent, and they respond to the slightest vibration or shadow that might signal the arrival of a parent with food. As they grow, their demands increase, and my mate and I are pushed to our limits, making feeding trips from dawn to dusk, and sometimes beyond. The investment we make is not guaranteed to pay off. Many chicks do not survive, and even those that fledge face a perilous journey to independence. Yet the drive to reproduce is powerful, and we will attempt multiple broods, each one a new opportunity to pass on our genes. Kinship plays a role in subtle ways. Genetic studies have shown that most chicks in a nest are the offspring of the territorial male and his mate, but extra-pair copulations do occur, and some chicks may be fathered by neighboring males. This introduces a degree of uncertainty into the male's investment, though it does not seem to reduce his overall effort. The female benefits from extra-pair copulations if they result in chicks with higher genetic quality or greater diversity, which may improve their chances of survival. The dynamics of kinship and relatedness are complex, and they are influenced by factors such as the density of the population, the quality of territories, and the availability of mates. Dispersal is a critical phase in the life cycle, and it is often the point at which young robins face their greatest challenges. After fledging and becoming independent, juveniles must leave their parents' territory and find a place of their own. This is not easy. Suitable habitat may be occupied by established adults, and dispersing juveniles must search widely, sometimes traveling several kilometers or more. During this period, they are vulnerable to predation, starvation, and accidents. Those that survive and successfully establish a territory gain the opportunity to reproduce, but many do not make it that far. The timing of dispersal varies. Some juveniles disperse soon after independence, while others linger on the periphery of their parents' territory for a time before moving on. In migratory populations, juveniles may migrate with adults or may migrate independently, relying on innate orientation mechanisms to guide them. The first migration is a particularly dangerous time, and mortality rates are high. Those that survive return to the breeding grounds the following spring, often settling in areas near where they were born, though some travel farther afield. Learning plays a role throughout a robin's life. Young birds learn to forage by watching their parents and by trial and error. They learn to recognize predators by observing the alarm behavior of adults and by their own narrow escapes. They learn the boundaries of territories by probing and being repelled, and they learn the songs and calls of their species through a process that involves both innate templates and cultural transmission. Robins are not vocal learners in the same way that some other songbirds are. They do not need to hear adult songs during a critical period to develop normal song. Instead, their songs develop largely according to genetic programs, though there is some evidence of regional variation and individual creativity. The ability to learn and to adapt is one reason robins have been so successful. They exploit new food sources, colonize new habitats, and adjust their behavior in response to changing conditions. In urban and suburban environments, robins have learned to use artificial nest sites, to forage in flower beds and compost heaps, and to tolerate the presence of humans at close range. This behavioral flexibility is a key factor in their survival and reproduction. My perception of the world is shaped by my senses and by the ways my brain processes information. When I forage, I am not simply reacting to stimuli. I am making decisions based on memory, expectation, and assessment of risk and reward. I remember where I have found food in the past, and I return to those locations. I remember the locations of territorial boundaries, and I adjust my behavior accordingly. I recognize individual neighbors, and I respond to them differently than to strangers. I assess the quality of potential mates based on their songs, their plumage, and their behavior, and I make choices that influence my reproductive success. Emotions, in the sense of internal states that motivate behavior, are likely present, though they are difficult to study directly. I experience fear when I detect a predator, and this fear drives me to flee or hide. I experience aggression when I encounter a rival, and this aggression drives me to fight or display. I may experience something akin to satisfaction or relief when I successfully defend my territory or when I feed my chicks. Whether these experiences are accompanied by subjective feelings similar to those of humans is unknown and perhaps unknowable, but the behaviors themselves are clear and consistent. My brain is small but sophisticated. It contains structures that are analogous to those found in the brains of mammals, including regions involved in sensory processing, motor control, memory, and decision-making. The hippocampus, a region involved in spatial memory, is relatively large in birds that cache food or that navigate over long distances, though robins do not cache food, and the size of the hippocampus varies among individuals and populations. The song control system, a network of brain regions involved in the production and learning of vocalizations, is well developed in songbirds, including robins, and it has been a focus of research into the neural basis of learned behavior. The challenges I face are many, and they are increasing in some respects. Climate change is altering the timing of seasonal events, such as the emergence of insects and the flowering of plants, and there is concern that these changes may lead to mismatches between the timing of breeding and the availability of food. Robins are adaptable, and there is some evidence that they are adjusting their breeding schedules in response to warmer springs. But the pace of change is rapid, and it is unclear whether adaptation will keep pace with environmental shifts. Urbanization continues to expand, bringing both opportunities and threats. Urban environments provide abundant food and nesting sites in some areas, but they also expose robins to novel dangers such as traffic, window collisions, and domestic cats. The quality of urban habitats varies widely, and not all urban areas are suitable for robins. Gardens with diverse vegetation, water sources, and reduced pesticide use support higher densities of robins and other birds, while sterile, heavily managed landscapes provide little in the way of resources. Invasive species pose additional challenges. In some regions, introduced predators such as rats and mustelids have had devastating effects on native bird populations, including robins. Invasive plants can alter habitat structure and reduce the availability of native fruits and insects. Diseases, some of which may be spread by invasive species or facilitated by human activity, can cause mortality and reduce reproductive success. Conservation efforts for robins focus on habitat protection and restoration, reducing pesticide use, mitigating the impacts of urbanization, and raising public awareness. In many countries, robins are protected by law, and it is illegal to kill, capture, or disturb them. Nest boxes and feeding stations are provided by conservation organizations and by individual householders, and these can supplement natural resources, particularly in degraded habitats. However, supplemental feeding is not without risks, and it is important to provide appropriate foods, to maintain clean feeding stations to reduce disease transmission, and to avoid creating dependency or altering natural behaviors in harmful ways. Research continues to expand our understanding of robins and to inform conservation strategies. Studies using banding, radio tracking, and GPS logging have revealed details of movement patterns, habitat use, and survival rates. Genetic studies have shed light on population structure, relatedness, and the evolutionary history of the species. Behavioral experiments have explored the mechanisms underlying territorial defense, mate choice, and foraging decisions. Physiological studies have investigated metabolism, thermoregulation, and the effects of environmental stressors. This body of research provides a foundation for evidence-based conservation and for predicting how robins will respond to future changes. The future of robins, like that of many species, is uncertain. In some regions, populations are stable or increasing, benefiting from conservation efforts and adaptability. In other regions, populations are declining due to habitat loss, climate change, or other factors. The resilience of robins, their ability to exploit a wide range of habitats, and their cultural significance all work in their favor, but they do not guarantee long-term survival. Continued vigilance, research, and conservation action are needed to ensure that future generations can enjoy the sight and sound of robins in gardens, woodlands, and wild places. I am a robin, and my life is a constant negotiation between survival and reproduction, between finding food and avoiding predators, between defending my territory and caring for my young. I am shaped by evolution, by the environment, and by the choices I make each day. I am part of a lineage that stretches back millions of years, and I am connected to the living world in countless ways. My song, my red breast, and my presence in gardens and woodlands have made me familiar to humans, but there is much about my life that remains hidden, that unfolds in the dense cover of hedges and thickets, in the early morning light, and in the quiet moments between dawn and dusk. My adaptations are the result of countless generations of natural selection, each individual tested by the challenges of its environment, each success and failure contributing to the shaping of the species. My plumage provides both camouflage and signaling. My senses are tuned to detect prey and predators. My body is built for agility and endurance, and my behavior is flexible enough to respond to a changing world. I am not a conscious designer of my own fate, but I am an active participant in the process of evolution, and the choices I make, the territories I defend, the mates I choose, and the young I raise all influence the genetic makeup of future generations. The songs I sing are more than mere sounds. They are information-rich signals that convey my identity, my quality, and my intentions. Each phrase is shaped by the structure of my vocal apparatus, by the neural circuits that control my breathing and my syrinx, and by the feedback I receive from my own ears and from the responses of other robins. The The songs vary from individual to individual, and they vary from moment to moment, reflecting the complex interplay of genetics, development, and experience. Researchers have used recordings of robin songs to study the structure of vocal communication, the role of learning in song development, and the ways in which songs function in territorial defense and mate attraction. The red breast that defines me is produced by pigments called carotenoids, which I obtain from my diet. Carotenoids are found in many fruits, insects, and other foods, and they are metabolized and deposited in my feathers during molting. The intensity and extent of the red coloration can vary depending on the quality of my diet, my health, and my age, and these factors influence how other robins perceive me. A bright, extensive red breast signals good condition and may deter rivals or attract mates, while a dull or small red patch may signal poor condition and may result in subordinate status. Molting is an important part of my annual cycle. I replace my feathers once a year, typically in late summer or early autumn after the breeding season. Molting is energetically costly, and it requires an abundant food supply and a period of relative safety. During the molt, I may be less agile in flight, and I may be more vulnerable to predators, so I seek out sheltered areas and reduce my activity. The new feathers that grow in are fresh and intact, providing better insulation and better flight performance than the worn feathers they replace. The timing of molting is influenced by photoperiod, hormones, and the demands of migration and reproduction. Thermoregulation is a constant challenge, particularly in winter. I am a warm-blooded animal, and I must maintain a body temperature of around 40 to 41 degrees Celsius, which requires a continuous supply of energy. When the ambient temperature drops, I lose heat to the environment, and I must either increase my metabolic rate to produce more heat or reduce heat loss through behavioral and physiological mechanisms. I fluff my feathers to trap air and create an insulating layer. I seek out sheltered microclimates, and I may enter a state of torpor at night, lowering my body temperature slightly to conserve energy. These strategies are effective, but they have limits, and prolonged cold snaps or food shortages can be fatal. In hot weather, I face the opposite problem. I must avoid overheating while remaining active enough to forage and defend my territory. I pant to increase evaporative cooling, I seek shade, and I may bathe in water to cool my body. Bathing also helps to maintain feather condition, and I bathe regularly, even in winter, as long as water is available. After bathing, I preen, running my feathers through my bill to realign the barbs and to distribute preen oil, which provides waterproofing and may have antimicrobial properties. My digestive system is adapted to process a varied diet. Invertebrates are digested relatively quickly, and the nutrients are absorbed in the small intestine. Fruits and berries pass through the digestive system more rapidly, and the seeds are often defecated intact, which facilitates seed dispersal. The structure of my gut varies seasonally, with changes in the size and function of different regions in response to dietary shifts. In winter, when I eat more fruit, my gut may lengthen to increase the surface area for nutrient absorption, though the efficiency of fruit digestion is lower than that of invertebrates. Water balance is another important aspect of my physiology. I obtain water from my food, from drinking, and from metabolic processes, and I lose water through respiration, excretion, and evaporation. My kidneys are efficient at concentrating urine, which reduces water loss, and I produce uric acid as the primary nitrogenous waste product, which is less toxic and less water-intensive than urea or ammonia. I drink regularly, particularly in hot or dry conditions, and I visit water sources such as puddles, streams, bird baths, and dew on vegetation. Reproduction is the ultimate measure of success in evolutionary terms, and every aspect of my behavior, physiology, and morphology is shaped by the imperative to reproduce. The energy I invest in singing, defending territory, building nests, laying eggs, and caring for young is all directed toward the goal of passing on my genes. The trade-offs I make between current and future reproduction, between the number and quality of offspring, and between my own survival and the survival of my young, are central to understanding my life history. Parental care is intense and demanding, and it involves both direct and indirect costs. Direct costs include the time and energy spent feeding chicks, defending the nest, and maintaining the nest site. Indirect costs include increased exposure to predators, reduced time for self-maintenance, and the risk of injury or death while provisioning young. Despite these costs, parental care is essential for the survival of altricial chicks, which are entirely dependent on their parents for warmth, food, and protection. The decision of when to breed, where to breed, and with whom to breed are influenced by a complex array of factors, including age, condition, experience, the quality of the territory, the availability of mates, and environmental conditions. Young robins may not breed in their first year if they are unable to secure a territory or if they are in poor condition. Older, more experienced individuals are generally more successful, and they may have higher reproductive output due to better foraging efficiency, better nest site selection, and more effective defense against predators and rivals. The genetic diversity of robin populations is maintained by several mechanisms, including mutation, recombination, gene flow, and natural selection. Populations that are isolated from each other may diverge genetically over time, leading to the formation of distinct subspecies or, eventually, new species. Gene flow, which occurs when individuals move between populations and breed, counteracts this divergence and maintains genetic similarity across the range. The balance between gene flow and local adaptation shapes the genetic structure of populations and influences their ability to respond to environmental change. Robins have been the subject of scientific study for over a century, and they have contributed to advances in many fields, including ethology, ecology, physiology, and evolutionary biology. David Lack, a British ornithologist, conducted pioneering research on European robins in the 1930s and 1940s, documenting their territorial behavior, population dynamics, and life history. His work laid the foundation for much of what we know about robins today, and it also contributed to broader theories in ecology and evolution. Subsequent researchers have built on this foundation, using modern techniques such as molecular genetics, telemetry, and computational modeling to explore new questions and to test long-standing hypotheses. The cultural significance of robins extends beyond their role in folklore and tradition. Robins have been used as symbols in literature, art, and music, representing themes such as renewal, hope, resilience, and the passage of time. The robin's association with winter and Christmas has made it a particularly potent symbol in cultures that celebrate these seasons, and its image appears on countless cards, decorations, and works of art. This cultural connection has helped to foster a sense of connection between humans and the natural world, and it has contributed to public support for conservation. However, cultural significance does not always translate into effective conservation. In some cases, the romanticization of robins and other wildlife can lead to well-intentioned but misguided actions, such as inappropriate feeding, disturbance of nests, or the keeping of wild birds in captivity. Education and outreach are essential to ensure that public engagement with wildlife is based on accurate information and that it supports, rather than undermines, conservation goals. The relationship between robins and humans is dynamic and multifaceted. In gardens and parks, robins benefit from the food and nesting sites that humans provide, and they tolerate human presence to a degree that would be unthinkable in more natural settings. This tolerance is not innate, it is learned, and it varies among individuals and populations. Robins in rural or wild areas are often more wary and less approachable than those in urban or suburban areas, reflecting differences in their experience with humans. The process by which robins learn to associate humans with food and safety is an example of behavioral plasticity, the ability to adjust behavior in response to environmental conditions. The concept of behavioral plasticity is central to understanding how robins and other species respond to rapid environmental change. Plasticity allows individuals to cope with novel situations, to exploit new resources, and to avoid new threats, and it can provide a buffer against the impacts of habitat loss, climate change, and other anthropogenic pressures. However, plasticity has limits, and it cannot compensate for all forms of environmental degradation. When habitats are destroyed, when food sources are eliminated, or when pollution reaches toxic levels, even the most plastic and adaptable species will suffer. The study of robins continues to yield new insights into the biology of birds and the functioning of ecosystems. Recent research has explored topics such as the role of gut microbiota in digestion and immunity, the effects of artificial light on circadian rhythms and behavior, the impact of noise pollution on communication, and the use of stable isotopes to track diet and movement. These studies not only advance our understanding of robins, but also contribute to broader scientific knowledge and to the development of conservation strategies that benefit multiple species. One area of active research concerns the effects of artificial light at night, which is increasingly recognized as a form of pollution with significant impacts on wildlife. Robins, like many other birds, are sensitive to light, and exposure to artificial light can disrupt their circadian rhythms, alter their activity patterns, and affect their reproductive success. In urban areas, robins may sing at night in response to street lighting, a behavior that is rarely observed in natural settings. This nocturnal singing may have costs, such as increased energy expenditure and reduced time for rest, and it may also affect the structure of social interactions and the transmission of information. Noise pollution is another concern. Traffic noise, construction noise, and other forms of anthropogenic sound can mask the songs and calls of birds, reducing their ability to communicate and to detect predators or competitors. Robins in noisy environments may adjust their songs, singing at higher frequencies or at greater amplitudes to overcome the background noise, but these adjustments may have costs, such as reduced song complexity or reduced attractiveness to mates. The long-term effects of noise pollution on robin populations are not fully understood, but there is growing evidence that chronic exposure to high levels of noise can have negative impacts on health, behavior, and reproductive success. Climate change is perhaps the most pervasive and challenging threat facing robins and other species. Rising temperatures, changing precipitation patterns, and shifts in the timing of seasonal events are already affecting robins in many parts of their range. In some areas, warmer winters have led to earlier breeding, which can be advantageous if it aligns with the peak availability of food for chicks. In other areas, mismatches between the timing of breeding and the timing of insect emergence have led to reduced reproductive success. The long-term consequences of climate change are difficult to predict, but they are likely to include range shifts, changes in population density, and alterations in community composition. The resilience of robin populations to these and other threats will depend on a variety of factors, including the availability of suitable habitat, the genetic diversity of populations, the plasticity of behavior and physiology, and the effectiveness of conservation measures. Protected areas, such as national parks, nature reserves, and other designated sites, provide refugia where robins and other species can persist even as surrounding landscapes are degraded. Corridors and connectivity between protected areas allow for movement and gene flow, which are essential for maintaining genetic diversity and for facilitating range shifts in response to climate change. Citizen science programs, in which members of the public contribute to data collection and monitoring, have become an important tool for tracking robin populations and for engaging the public in conservation. Programs such as the British Trust for Ornithology's Garden Bird Watch and the North American Breeding Bird Survey rely on volunteers to submit observations of birds in their gardens and along survey routes, and the data collected through these programs provide valuable information on population trends, distribution, and habitat use. Citizen science also fosters a sense of stewardship and connection to the natural world, and it can inspire individuals to take action in their own communities. Education is a cornerstone of conservation. By increasing public awareness of the challenges facing robins and other species, and by providing information on actions that individuals can take to support wildlife, conservation organizations can build a constituency for nature and create the political will needed to enact and enforce protective policies. Education can take many forms, from formal programs in schools and universities to informal outreach through social media, public talks, and community events. The goal is to create a society that values biodiversity, understands the importance of ecological processes, and is committed to living sustainably. The life of a robin is a window into the natural world, a reminder of the complexity, beauty, and fragility of life on Earth. My story is not just my own. It is part of a larger narrative that includes the plants and animals I interact with, the ecosystems I inhabit, and the evolutionary processes that have shaped me. It is a story of adaptation and survival, of cooperation and competition, of birth and death. It is a story that connects the past to the present and the present to the future, and it is a story that is still being written. As I sit on a branch in the early morning light, my red breast glowing in the sun, I am unaware of the scientific theories and conservation programs that surround me. I do not think about evolution or ecology, about climate change or habitat loss. I am focused on the immediate demands of survival, finding food, defending my territory, caring for my young. Yet my life, and the lives of my offspring, will be shaped by these larger forces, and the actions that humans take today will determine the world that future generations of robins will inhabit. I am a robin, and I am both ordinary and extraordinary. I am one of millions of individuals of my species, yet I am also unique, with my own experiences, my own genetic makeup, and my own place in the web of life. I am a product of evolution, shaped by millions of years of natural selection, yet I am also an agent in the evolutionary process, making choices that influence the survival and reproduction of my genes. I am small and vulnerable, yet I am resilient and adaptable, capable of thriving in a wide range of environments. I am a part of the natural world, yet I am also connected to the human world through the gardens I visit, the songs I sing, and the cultural meanings that humans have attached to me. My existence is a testament to the power of life to persist and to diversify, to adapt to changing conditions, and to exploit new opportunities. It is also a reminder of the interconnectedness of all living things and of the responsibility that comes with the power to alter the environment. The future of robins and of countless other species depends on the choices that humans make, on the willingness to protect and restore habitats, to reduce pollution, to mitigate climate change, and to live in ways that are compatible with the persistence of biodiversity. I am a robin, and I will continue to sing, to forage, to defend my territory, and to raise my young for as long as the conditions allow. I will continue to adapt, to learn, and to respond to the challenges I face. And I will continue to be a part of the natural world, a small but vital thread in the fabric of life, a symbol of resilience and renewal, a voice in the chorus of the living earth.